Hello there, reason people, Pooh Bear here, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the Midi-CV Converter. Before I start that, without a doubt, I'd always get questions about what this device is in the background. This is the W.A.O 3001. It's a free rack extension. It does do nothing more apart from a bit of eye candy. I find it a little bit useful. If I've got a nice long chain, I can throw it on the end. If I've seen some lights, I know it's all working. It's a freebie device, as I said. You can get it from the store, and I'll make sure I put a link in the description for you. But today, as I say, we're going to be talking about the Midi-CV Converter, and we're also going to be using it in using Reason Live. I have done another video before, just in case you're thinking, oh, haven't I seen a video before? Yep. There's been a couple of changes, so I thought I'd do an updated video, but I never really spoke about the actual Midi-CV Converter before. I just used it. So let's go through it. What is its purpose? Well, its purpose is because it's a player device, it's obviously receiving the MIDI data in, and we've got the ability to actually send the data out. We can send it to individual instruments. The preferred way I like to use it is I actually go from a Midi-CV converter to another Midi-CV converter, because I can always use the poly mode, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So on the front, we've got a simple on-off switch, which is quite straightforward. We have this MIDI in. So at the moment, you can see I'm playing, and if I go and turn this off, no more notes. Why would you turn it off? Well, if I've actually got data coming in the MIDI in, that will still pass through the player. Then we've got our MIDI outs, and we can actually individually turn these on and off, which is obviously quite handy again when we start stacking these things up, and you'd see what I mean by that. And over this side, I say we've got the MIDI in, and you get a few notes coming, get a few lights coming in as the signal comes in there. On the back, as I said, we've got this poly and mono mode. Obviously, the mono mode is like, I say the old way. This is how a lot of instruments will use the mono mode, and you'd have to be in mono mode. If not, they just won't work correctly. A number of instruments support the poly mode. It is Blamsoft who came out with this sort of standard. So you'd see on the back of some instruments which will have this switch, which you can switch between them. As I said, we've got 8 MIDI out ports, and we've got 8 MIDI inputs. Let's just quickly have a talk about the flow of this instrument. Basically, if I'm playing and something's coming in, it will send it straight out of the MIDI outs. Then any data which is coming from the MIDI in, so my MIDI data will come in, it go to the outs, they'd actually merge, and then they'll pass it down either to another player device, or in this case, an instrument. I didn't actually point out that the W.A.O is actually an instrument, hence why I can actually stack players above it. So let's actually have a look at this in a little bit more detail. So I believe I can make my screen a bit bigger. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drag these over here. I'm going to hold down the control key, which would be the command key, I think, in a Mac. And again, I'm going to do it once more. So I've got 3 of these. And I was going to quickly wire them up. And I'm going to wire them up in what I call a cascade mode. So I'm going to take the gate from the MIDI out and put it into the gate in. Note between the output and the input, and then I'm actually going to take the gate from here and put it into the gate there, and then the note, and I'm going to put that into there, and then the very final step I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure the MIDI focus is on this particular instrument over here. So when I'm playing, you can see we've got lights, we can see we've got lights, but we've got no lights. So this is expected, just in case you're thinking you're expecting lights to see here. Let's just talk about the MIDI flow again. As I said, I'll play the keyboard, so the data's come in, it's sent it straight to the out, it's brought it into the MIDI in, and that just sends it down the line. There's no direct data coming, so hence nothing comes across. Now, if you had this kind of scenario, don't panic. There is a simple thing that we can do, is I'm just going to hold this, and I'm just going to drag it down, and I'm going to hold Shift and Control, which would be Command key again on the Mac, whiz around to the back, and I'm going to take this note down to this machine and this gate down to this player. And let's again highlight this one to make sure the MIDI's coming into this one. There it is, and you can see all 3. So as I said, I'm playing, the MIDI's coming in, it's sending it to the MIDI out. From the MIDI out, we're coming into the MIDI in. It's coming along here, and now it's going to pass it down the chain. When it passes down the chain, this is like receiving direct data. And because it's receiving direct data, it's going to pass it to the MIDI out, which hence is going to come to the MIDI in. Now, my preferred method, rather than setting this sort of way up, is to use what I refer to as a master and slave. So I'll have this as my master, and I just join up my notes and gate data from this, and then span it out. And that is my sort of preferred method, and as you can see, it's going to work. So I'm just going to clear out all this. And here we happen to have a combinator, what I refer to as master and slave. I'll put it in the description, and you can actually download this combinator. It's very straightforward. Basically, all it is, it's got 9 Midi-CV converters in it. One which, as you can see, I've labelled as the master, and the other ones I refer to as a slave. And it just happens to be sitting on top of the W.A.O again, because that's not going to do absolutely nothing. So let's have a quick look at the wiring at the back. And it's very, very straightforward. As I say, I've just got port 1 going to slave 1, port 2 will be going to slave 2, and so on and so forth, straight down to port 8. So number 8 will be coming, port 8 will be going down to slave 8. The advantage of having something like this just set up is quite straightforward. I'm now going to just quickly grab, and I'm going to create myself 3 instruments. Here we go, that's number 1, there's number 2, and let's grab that one there and put that there. So we've got ourselves 3 instruments, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to grab these and just plonk them on the top. I'm going to grab the next one, and I'm just going to plonk it on the top, and one more. Whoops, onto that instrument. And then all I'm going to do is make sure that this combinator's now got the focus. And effectively, what I've done is I've layered up 3 instruments. I'm just going to grab a headphone so I can actually hear what you're hearing. Brilliant. You might be thinking, well, I can do that anyway. I can put these into a combinator. Why are we messing around with this Midi-CV converter? Well, as I said, using this in a live environment is really works well, because one of the methods that people use in a live environment is they'd use something like one of the line mixers, the 14.2 line mixer, or they might even take control of actually the mutes on just a box standard mix channel, and so they'd mute everything out and just unmute the instrument they want to play, and then they can very, very, very quickly switch between your instruments. Well, using the Midi-CV converter, we can switch between our instruments really, really quickly as well, because we can turn these on and off. But they give us 2 massive benefits. Number 1 is the tails, and number 2 is DSP, so they're 2 nice ones. So what do I refer to as tails? Well, quite simply, if I'm playing my instrument and I hit that mute key, what you're hearing now on that reverb, that just all dies. So very, very quickly, let's actually just mute. Yeah. What's this one here, I think? And obviously, mute goes dead. Yeah. So, but by using the Midi-CV converter, as you can hear it, and what I'm going to do is mute it, or I'm not going to mute it, I'm going to turn it off. I've still got my release going. Yeah. And that's the big advantage of this. So there it is on. We can turn it off, and in fact, I'm now going to turn this instrument on. But you can still hear that reverb going on that one. And that's the big advantage. And obviously the other big advantage is when we unmute something, well, if we've just been playing, it's obviously got them tails of itself coming through. So with the Midi-CV converter, you do not get that. So you're not getting any end tails, and you're not getting any begin tails. It's lovely, fresh info. Now, DSP, I've touched on DSP. So I'm looking down here, so I've got some new switch, which I'm controlling OBS with. yeah, it's great because obviously if you were using the mix channel, sorry, I just got to turn that back on again. If we were using the mix channel route, all the instruments are playing and we're just muting and unmuting them. So they're all actually playing in the background. But obviously with the MIDI CV converter, when we turn it off, that instrument's not being played. So I made sure I've got a heaviest patch up here. So when I play this, we can see we're peaking on 3. And it happens to be this one up here. So when I turn that off, just going up to 2. Let's turn that on. Oh, there we go, we're going up to back 3 there. But if I make sure I turn both of these off, so actually let me get out of the way altogether. So if I turn that one off and that one off, so we're now just playing the bass. Yeah, so that DSP is just not going up. It's that one, it's the big one. But I think you get the idea. Big DSP saver. Now on my last video, I was using that Hamu device, which was getting our performance data across, because that's something I haven't actually mentioned. There is a big downer on, I say a big downer, no performance data gets sent through these CV signals. So it's just literally noting gate data, which is being sent to these devices. So we've got no pitch bend, no modulation, no expression wheel, breath, nothing. Yeah, but we can actually get that working. What I'm going to actually do is, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to collapse everything down. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key. If you hold down my Alt key and you click on obviously the minimize, it minimizes everything in that particular column. Now I'm actually going to rename this at this stage. And this is, I'm just going to call this lead for the moment. And the reason I'm going to rename it is because I'm going to be dragging these devices over and I'm going to be plonking them, over in here into the rack. And in fact, I'm just going to delete these 4 off because we don't need them. And as I was saying, the real reason why I renamed it, because if I take this and I drop this into the rack in the combinator, you can see it's now taken the name of the actual combinator. So that's why I always rename them beforehand. So this is like a pad sound, I think. So I don't get confused about what's going on. And obviously I've got this third one over here, so I'm just going to type in there. Let's call it a bass. There we go. Call it a bass. And again, I'm just going to minimize everything and we'll grab that in and put that at the bottom there. I'm now going to hit Shift Control G, which turns off grouping. So that means I can actually grab this mix channel and put it there and it doesn't grab everything together. And so if I now hit this button, hey, that's where I want to be. At the moment, the combinator itself will actually start to play these instruments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the programmer and I'm going to click on each of the instruments and we're going to turn off receive notes for each of them. So now the combinator is not passing the data through. And if I was to just open up this, so I've only got that one there playing. So if I turn it off, I'm now playing my keyboard. As you can see, I've got some lights here. Playing the keyboard, nothing's going through until we actually turn these on. Now the next stage, what I do personally is I actually right click. I'm going to do a remote override. And I'm so sorry that this is coming out of screenshots. So there we go. It's just a remote override. And I'm actually going to take control of each of these on-off buttons. And it's opened it up on another screen, so sorry, I'll quickly do it on this other screen. And I've just got to do that last one. So let's bring it in, there we go. A little bit slow today, but there we go. So now, theoretically, I can turn everything on and off, yay, from my controller. And this is really part of, you know, as I say, the whole point that you're going to be stacking your instruments up. You can quickly now turn them on and off whilst you're playing along. What we're going to do now is actually we're going to have a look at another method of where I can get my sustain pedal, and I'm going to actually use my sustain pedal to turn these on and off. At the moment, if I actually do edit remote override and bring that in and I click it, there we go. Now when I hold it down, you can see it's turned off, but as soon as I let go, it comes back on again, which is absolutely useless, because really what I want to do is be able to hit this and for it to stay on, and then hit this for it to turn off. So we're going to actually set that up. It's quite straightforward to do, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab myself a Thor. So I'm just going to quickly add myself a Thor. There we go, we've got ourselves a Thor. It doesn't matter if we've got anything going into it or not. I'm just going to reset it. And then let's go into show programming. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually right click that and click edit remote override and bring that screen up so you can see it. There it is. And I'm going to override it with my sustain pedal. Yeah, let's do a replace. I'm going to turn on step. Let's bring this down to curve. I'm only interested in 2 steps. One's going to be set to 0 and the other one's going to be set to 127. So now when I click this, you can see it switching backwards and forth, and I'm also picking up, there we go, so we can actually make sure everything's turned off. So we're switching backwards and forth between these two. So what I'm going to actually do now is I'm going to take the curve one out and I'm going to put it into the curve in, and I'm just going to turn this into unipolar. And then on the front, I am going to select this Midi-CV Converter, CV1, and I'm going to select the on-off button. So now when I hit this, he says, there we go, so it's gone off and it's on, off, on. So now, obviously, if I've got a couple of sustain pedals or some other things, I can actually turn these on and off. Now, if you think about it, you could say, oh, you're switching between 2 leads all the time. Well, there's nothing stopping you coming to this. So I'm going to go to the second Midi-CV converter, go into CV, select the on, and actually switch these the opposite way around. So now you can see that's on, that's off. When I click, we've swapped them around, and we can switch backs and forwards. So we could be playing something over here if we had the focus over here, sorry. And in fact, what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to take off the bass. think you get the idea there of what's going on. So yeah, that is really handy to do that, because obviously your hands free and you can obviously carry on playing. Nearly forgot to actually demonstrate the whole point of us putting this into the combinator is now we're actually into the combinator. All my performance data is coming through, so I've got my aftertouch, got my expression pedals, we've got a pitch bend, modulation wheel, and I say that was the real point of us actually wiring it up into the combinator. If you ever wanted a particular instrument, say not to receive any expression data, again, actually up at the very top, let's see if we can zoom into here, up at the actual top, if I actually click on the instrument itself, you can come in here and you can actually say what you want or what you don't want. So on each of the instruments we can come in and say, well actually I don't want this instrument to receive the pitch bend, shall I say, and this one here I don't want the modulation wheel, whereas this one here is going to have them all. So you can pick and choose what you want, so it does give you a very powerful kind of setup what you can do with it. So my next part of the project, or part of this video, is going to be, I was going to show you a couple of things I actually like to do with the Midi-CV converters, and actually using another device called Delta, and this is quite handy not just for using Reason Live, because I do a lot of stacking even in a normal project because it gets me quick results, and Delta is a real benefit for doing that. So let's actually quickly pop off and have a look at some of this stuff. So here's a quick usage of Delta with a simple if statement. I'm just going to drop that patch there, and I'm going to drop this patch on this one here. And I think I should be able to zoom in a little bit more. Here we go, so we can have a quick look at Delta a bit closer up. As I say, this is actually a very simple if statement, and I'm just going to move that up to there. So what I'm doing is I'm basically going to be zoning this instrument out, so it's actually only going to receive notes above C3, whereas obviously this bass, which was playing before, is now not going to receive notes above C3 and is going to play notes below C3. So if I happen to have these two stacked up, and make sure I've got focus here, and I now play, and let's turn off the pad, he says. I only got my bass down at one end and my pluck at the other. Now I know you can say, well, it's in the combinator, we can zone out anyway. Well, just remember, you can actually stack these onto top of other combinators. You can stack these onto other instruments outside of this combinator. You know, we can do a real lot of stacking. So that's just a real simple sort of usage, and I will admit, it's this kind of simple thing I actually do use Delta for, and to then transpose stuff up. So and a little bit later on in a bigger project, and I'll actually show you the final result, is I actually take like a couple of different Midi-CV converters. One will be going from like my left hand and the other one going from my right hand, splitting everything right out, trying to combine in some drums, trying to combine in all sorts of other things. So let's actually have a quick look at, say, a bigger project, he says. I should better bring this up. Oh, there we go. And I might have to get myself disappeared out of this because I'm going to be right in the middle. So as you can see, I've actually combined up quite a few different deltas here in this particular combinator. It's a very basic sort of bass sound at the very end, but we can get some quite good sounds, you know, if I bypass all these actually, so you can hear it raw. That's the sound we got. And basically all I'm doing there is I'm playing different lengths notes, and you can get quite quite a lot of different things going on. Again, I've got another one over here, so let's have a quick listen to this particular stack. So that's the pluck sound, which we was playing with earlier. And you can just really start getting these things, you know, stacked up quite nicely. I've got sort of a bit of a piano stack going on over here. And so on and so forth. As I say, Delta itself is massive. I keep saying to myself, I must do a video about Delta, but it's one of these things a bit like CV. It is absolutely massive, and I expect if I did a video of trying to do a real in-depth one of Delta, it'd probably be about 3 or 4 hours long. There is so much inside Delta, but at the same time, with something like this, it takes 2 seconds to sort of wire up and to get your head round. When you start getting onto maybe some of the other bits I'm sort of up to, because there is things hidden in some of these screens, because these screens are all kind of scrollable. There's not much going on in that one. But yeah, so we do have some other things. And yeah, Delta is really, really useful for manipulating the MIDI at that end. So what else I do, as I say, with these Midi-CV converters, I say I'm going to control things with my left hand, I'm going to control things with my right hand. And let's actually put this all together now. And actually see it live in action. And just remember, I'm a techie guy. Yeah, I don't think of myself as a musician, a producer. I think I'm a techie guy. So this is just for a bit of fun. Yeah, my time is going to be off, but it doesn't matter. I can record live, come into reason, and tidy it all up. I'm sure you guys can do a lot better, but here you go, all put together. So let's have a quick closer look at the setups that we're just setting up with the use of the pedals down below. I've got a number of different sounds. I can obviously play, hit the pedal, hit the pedal again, we can take out the R's. Up at the top we've got like a piano bit overlaying. And then obviously we've got some stuff going down on the left hand side. So as you can see, by using Delta and using the Midi-CV converter, we can come up with quite an array of different sounds. So what I'm going to try and attempt to do now is put it all together. So as far as I care, this is me playing the keyboards with training wheels on. You're the keyboardist, but you better see the rough things I can sort of do with it. So you should better have lots of fun doing your stuff live as well. still with me, thank you very much for watching. I can't play talk at the same time. So bye for now.